usually does. I disappeared, you disappeared. And okay, I think we're good to go, folks. We had some technical difficulties, but we're back. Part two, I guess, will be with Wesley Southard. We were talking about Try Again and your planning as opposed to pantsing.
Yeah, yeah.
If you had laid out her route without, I'm trying to avoid spoiling too much, but
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know where I got cut off before, but yeah, I basically, like I said, I'm an outliner, but I didn't have an outline for this one in particular. But yeah, once I realized that I needed to do the route, and yeah, I ended up kind of not really drawing the route, but I kind of like sort of drew the route in my notebook that I carry around with me from room to room to room to room to show where I needed to go, and if she indeed had to start over, or where I needed to go again to make sure that she remembered where she was supposed to go. But yeah, it was harder to write than I thought it was going to, especially like when she does figure out the correct way to get into the house. That's when I started going, oh shit, like I really need to come up with a plan for this. So yeah, it was hard, it was harder to write than I thought it was going to be, but like I said, I'm really really happy with the results of the book.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Scares the Care AuthorCon,
Hmm.
and you have posted about a few other things. How was this? Was the inaugural AuthorCon?
Yep.
What are your thoughts? What were your impressions?
Genuinely one of the best shows I've ever done, if not the best show I've ever done. It
Wow.
was phenomenal, top to bottom. I mean, it was. I mean, it's any show that Joe Ripple and Brian Keene run, and this one was more Brian's show than Joe's. But any Scares That Care show is going to be great. I mean, you're there for a cause. I mean, obviously, every show is going to be raising money for the three recipients that Scares That Care is involved with at that moment, that they're raising money for. But as far as like the show itself, for us the authors, like I couldn't have asked for a better experience. I mean, it was unbelievable. I got to be like in a big kind of like rectangle circle with all my friends that I'm close with, all my writer friends. I got to meet a lot of people that I had never met before, like a lot of my peers. um I hate to be like this, but like sales were just unbelievable at this show. And my favorite part was, I'm so used to doing these horror conventions that I had basically, even though I don't have a better way of saying this, I basically have to sing and dance the entire time to get people's attention. Because when people come to these shows, they're not there to buy books. They're there to get autographs. They're there to buy T-shirts. They're there to buy pop figures. They're there to buy masks. They're there to buy whatever, anything but books. So my job is to convince them why they need to buy my books. At AuthorCon, I didn't have to pitch to anybody. I think I did it twice the entire weekend. Everybody that came there was looking to buy books. They knew what they wanted. Even if they didn't know what they wanted, they would come up to the table and I would talk to them for a couple minutes and they would just start grabbing stuff and they knew exactly what they were going for. And it was so effortless. The whole show was so unbelievably effortless, and everybody that came to the show was, excuse me, was happy. Um, Everybody was in such a good mood, like all the author, from the authors to the showrunners to the readers. Couldn't have asked for a better experience. It was phenomenal. I cannot wait for next year. Next year is going to be even bigger and better. uh yeah, I'm and the vendor room is already sold out, and I know they're going
Yeah.
to be opening up more vendor tables here shortly. But yeah, it's unbelievable. This is going to be the show of the year every year for authors and readers alike. It's just so good. I can't wait.
I always tell people that Scares the Care has been my dream con
Yeah.
to get to, and now it seems like it's going to be that AuthorCon is the one
Oh yeah.
to really go to. I am one of those people that's there to buy books.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want pop figures and all that, and T-shirts and all that other stuff, but I'm always looking for authors. Unfortunately, looking at the pictures that you were posting, I have everything that you've done.
Yeah.
So Sorry, I can't buy anything from you.
It's hey, you know what? There's 90 other authors you can buy from.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, there are plenty that I've got some, but not all.
I mean, there were people that didn't even buy stuff. There were people that came in. There was a woman from Ohio, Erica. I'm I can't remember her last name. She came in with several uh, pieces of luggage full of books that she already had bought that she wanted people to sign. I signed a whole bunch of books from people like that. I signed plenty of books from people that didn't even come up to me and buy stuff from me, that they just brought stuff for me to sign. I mean, that doesn't happen real often for me, but when it does happen, it's pretty damn cool. It's a really, really cool feeling. But yeah, there was a lot of people like that, but Erica in particular, I believe her name was Erica. I apologize if it's not. I'm sorry, Erica, or your name. But yeah, it was just such a great show, man. Like I think the more that the authors put into um promoting the show next year's show, like it's going to be even bigger and better. I mean, like I said, this is going to be the show that every author is going to want to be at, regardless of genre. And that's the thing Joe keeps stressing, is that this isn't just a horror author show. Now, yeah, granted, it's mostly horror authors, but he wants a variety. He wants authors of all genres to be able to vend at this show and feel comfortable vending at the show. And that's what I hope to see more of. I don't want to just see horror authors. I want to see sci-fi and fantasy and romance and everything. I mean, that's just it'll be great. It'll be such a huge show when it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger.
Nice, nice. I
Yeah.
like those. And yeah, the one show I go to most often is Cinema Wasteland,
God, I want to go to that so bad.
because it's 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
I used to work in Strongsville, Ohio. So, um, but it's a movie memorabilia thing. So
Yeah.
there's not a very rarely are there authors there. Uh, I did get to meet Jack Ketchum there.
Ugh.
He was,
I have never been able to meet Dallas. I've always
uh,
wanted to meet Dallas. I never
and
got to meet him.
I got to meet him, and I got to piss him off because I asked him to sign the skeleton cover
Oh,
of The Girl
dude.
Next Door. Um, and he signed it something about like this damn cover again or something. Um, because I have two copies of that book.
Oh, jeez.
But I had to have that. I love those garish covers.
Yeah. I
And
don't.
then I actually had him signed because Mike Lombardo had told me that he really wanted one of those copies with the
Yeah.
skeleton cover. So I had Jack sign it to me, and then underneath he just wrote "Suck it, Lombardo." Uh, but yeah, it was wonderful meeting him. But never a lot of authors there.
I
Maybe one
would
or two.
I would love to vend at that show, but I don't think I would do very well because it just doesn't seem like that type of show. But they're also vendor tables are sold out, like they're sold out before the next show even gets announced. Like it's
Yeah.
people basically get grandfathered into that show. It's basically like Horror Hound. I'd love to
Oh,
vend at Horror Hound. Horror Hound's next to impossible to get a vendor table out because everybody that vends there just rolls their tables over to the next year, and it's impossible to get a table at. So it's like, unless somebody fucking dies, you're never going to get a table at that show.
Horror Hound is the other one
Yeah.
that I've been to a few times, and it's a lot of fun. But again, no authors.
Yeah.
At Cinema Wasteland, I did strike up a conversation with one of the vendors who was selling comic books and stuff because I have a T-shirt for Brian Keene's The Complex,
Mhm.
and he spotted that and was like, "Brian Keene, yeah, I'm a fan," and we just started talking horror novels and stuff, which was a
Nice.
lot of fun.
Actually,
Uh,
I think Lombardo and I we're not going to be able to make it to Lombardo's like one of my best friends in the world. Like he's actually my son's godfather. He and I have been talking about going to Cinema Wasteland for forever, but I wouldn't be able to make the one in October because I'm actually doing a show like locally here, like on that weekend. But I think if whenever they have the next one after that, I guess it would be like April or whatever. I definitely want to drive out at least for one day to that show because I want to see that so bad. Like, there's so many like movie vendors and stuff that I want to see. I'd love to buy stuff from like Synapse and Severin and stuff in person.
Yep.
Excuse me, I got the hiccups in person. And they
Uh,
always seem to like release stuff at those shows, like fresh for those shows. So yeah, I'd love to do that.
yeah, I always have fun when I go. And Mike Lombardo, just have to say, my biggest man crush ever. Love Mike.
Yeah.
Mike is fantastic. I've never met him yet, but absolutely love Mike. But yeah, Cinema Wasteland. Like the first time I ever went, is it Tom Sullivan always has his Evil Dead museum there,
Okay.
and the very first time I went, he did a live commentary when they showed Evil Dead, which was a lot of fun. And then some years later, they had all of the women from the Evil Dead, and the three of them and Tom Sullivan did a live commentary. I
Yeah.
love that kind of stuff. Uh, Betsy Palmer was there one time, did a Q&A before a screening of Friday the 13th.
Okay.
Frank Henenlotter and just about everybody from Frankenhooker, which is a movie I love, were there. Did a big panel.
Okay.
Really dig that stuff. But Charles Band has been there.
So my Blu-ray 4K of Lucio Fulci's Zombie, there's a big special feature on that of Cinema Wasteland got the entire at the moment, and this was probably like 10 years ago, got the what was left of living of the cast of Zombie to
Nice.
come to that show, and they had everybody that was still alive come and do that show, and oh my god, I would have died. I would have fucking died to go see that. But I've heard that like Cinema Wasteland doesn't get like the normal con guests, like they actually kind of dig deeper and get like the kind of like, you know, the cooler guests and stuff, because like I do so many of these shows, and I'm the fact that I'm getting burnt out on them to begin with, but like I just get burnt out on seeing like the same guests at the same shows every single year, show after show after show, and it's like so many American horror movie actors, and I'm just like, God, I would love to see more of like these Italian actors and stuff because I think it'd just be so much cooler for me. I know nobody else cares, but I think it would be really cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they do get some, for lack of a better way to put it, more obscure
Yeah,
guests, which I find again exciting. But yeah, great vendors. They always have a Trauma.
yeah.
Trauma has a big corner,
Mm.
and is it Happy Cloud Productions? Um, I think they're from Baltimore. It's Amy Lynn Best and Mike Watts who've
Mm.
made the Resurrection Game, Razor Days. You know, independent filmmaking.
Mm.
They're always right inside the front door,
Okay.
and they'll have all their movies. And then Mike Watt has written some books and things, and they've got that stuff. They're wonderful people. I got to meet Chainsaw Sally herself, April Monique Burrell, wife of Jimmy O. Burrell, writer, director of Chainsaw Sally, and all that stuff. I love meeting these people, these independent, super low budget filmmakers.
Yeah.
Steve Rudzinski, who made Carousel, which I
Okay.
love that movie. Yeah, I really dig Cinema Wasteland, and I would be more than happy to see you at a table there, or just there hanging out.
One day, I'm hoping I can at least just come out to the show. I mean, I think I just mapped it out, like on Google mapped it just recently. I think it's like 5.5 hours away from where I'm at, so it'd be a long day trip, but I'd
Yeah,
like to come out to it at least once. I want to see all the like the movie vendors and stuff.
I don't know the legality of all these things. Last time I was at Horror Hound weekend,
Hmm.
Glenn Rolfe couldn't get a table, and Sam Hain wasn't doing tables at the time anymore. They were
Yeah.
on the way out. He just came out with a backpack of books, and he had my number, I had his number. So I was there with my nephew and niece-in-law, and he just texted, "Hey, I made it. Where are you guys at?" And we met up with Glenn Rolfe, hung out with him for a while. I bought whichever book it was he had out at the time.
So
Straight.
Glenn came all the way out from Maine to Ohio with a backpack full of books and no table.
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus Christ. That's quite a hike to do without a table, but damn, good on him. I don't think I would do it, but
Yeah, but it was, it was great to meet him
yeah.
and hang out a little bit, and buy his new book. It was the one after Blood and Rain. I don't remember the title, and I can't read my book titles from here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you could. I'm just saying, you make that day trip, just fill up a backpack.
I guess. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to sell books from like the hotel, but maybe in the parking lot. I don't
Mike
know.
could, Mike could fill up a backpack of DVDs and Blu-rays, and
It's stranger things have happened.
all right. Let's see. Okay, well let's get to the main event before we have any other technical difficulties or
Yeah,
anything.
for sure.
So your choice. I don't have a copy to hold up and show the audience. You can just show them your T-shirt.
Oh
Apparently,
yeah. Well. Hey, I have 3 copies. I have
nice.
3.
Well, your choice for my favorite horror with was Lucio Fulci's City of the Living Dead, also
Okay.
known as The Gates of Hell, which was nice. I first saw it under the title Gates of Hell way back. Rented it from a Blockbuster. That's how
Yeah.
long ago it was. As a matter of fact, it would have been late '90s when I saw it. So why, or no? First of all, folks, we're going to be spoiling stuff. We're gonna jump into this. We're going to dig into it. We're going to talk about this movie.
Hell yeah.
So spoilers. If you haven't seen it, pause this video. Go watch City of the Living Dead. It's on Shudder.
Yep.
I literally finished watching it again 7 minutes before we started. So folks, go watch it. Come back, watch us talk about it because there's going to be spoilers. All right. So, um, can you give us a quick? Is it possible to give a quick synopsis of what this movie's about?
Oh God. How do I describe this movie? Well, here, let's see. What does oh, here, let's just read the back cover of the Blu-ray.
All right.
Let's see. From the Italian godfather of gore, Lucio Fulci, comes City of the Living Dead, a notoriously nauseating, compellingly corporeal masterpiece of apocalyptic zombie horror. A medium has a medium has a mysterious vision of a priest hanging himself. A seemingly dead woman awakes screaming in her coffin. And in the sleepy New England town of Dunwich, a girl vomits up her intestines, and a local misfit has a drill bit plowed into his cranium. These hallucinogenic, often grotesque visions punctuate a skeletal storytelling of a reporter, Christopher George, and a psychic, Catriona McCall, who must race against time to prevent the hordes of rotting corpses spewing forth from the gates of hell.
Nice. Gives a little bit away there on the back of the cover,
Eh,
but
oh well.
and before we start like really digging into the movie, why was this your choice?
Well, I'm having kind of a movie renaissance for my own self right now. I've always been a big Lucio Fulci fan. I've been a fan of his since high school. I still remember the first time I ever saw Zombie and City of the Living Dead at my friend's house. I was fucking floored by it. I mean, I grown up watching, movies like Phantasm and Texas Chainsaw and Nightmare on Elm Street and Evil Dead and stuff. And I mean, those movies, they're American movies. They do what American horror movies do. But I had never seen Euro horror movies, and I was floored by these movies. I was absolutely floored by just the I don't even know how to describe it. Just the like how far these movies went, like how much they just didn't give a shit. Like they didn't care. I still remember seeing the eye puncture scene for the first time, and I kept thinking, the closer that Splinter's getting, I kept thinking, there's no way they're going to show this. Like, there's no way. Like, there's no way. There's no way. Oh my God, they're showing it. I still remember seeing the gut puking scene from City of the Living Dead, and I just kept thinking, what the hell? What the hell? What the hell? Um, I love the ballsiness of those movies, and just I was just blown away by them, and I really loved those two movies from Fulci, and I didn't see a lot of his stuff up and like more of his stuff up until like a few years ago, because really, like, we're living in a time right now of just everything's accessible when it comes to these old films. I mean, if they're not on streaming, you've got companies like Arrow and um, Synapse and Severin and Blue Underground and Vinegar Syndrome and Shameless that are thank God for them, that they're restoring these films and they're putting them out on just these beautiful Blu-rays and 4Ks, and almost all of them are just readily available, even if you have to get like a region free player, Blu-ray player, like I got recently. Um, but yeah, I've kind of rediscovered about 4 or 5 years ago my love for Fulci when I was able to acquire more of his stuff, and was just, man, that sweet spot of like 1979 to about 1983 with his work. And I mean, I know it doesn't sound like a awful lot of time, but I mean, he made a lot of movies in between there, and there was 5 or 6 of those films that are just really considered horror classics at these days. I mean, Zombies, City of the Living Dead, The Beyond, House by the Cemetery, The Black Cat, New York Ripper. Unbelievable movies. Maybe not The Black Cat, might not be on that level, but it's still a pretty good movie. I like that movie. I don't dislike it as much as some other people. But yeah, I just I've kind of, like I said, I've kind of finding myself more in a movie renaissance lately, because I've been always been kind of stuck in my own ways with movies. Like I like what I like, and I have a hard time kind of branching out of that. But now that everything's so readily available, it's been easier to kind of discover stuff and spend a little bit of money on these movies. And now that I'm having a hard time getting writing time in, I'm spending a lot more time with my child. And since he's like he's almost 5 months now, he doesn't know what he's watching on TV when I'm putting these movies on. So like I'm buying a lot of movies now that I've never seen before, that I'm taking more chances on. And hell, I just got more movies today. I actually had to go to the post office and pick them up. I mean, I've got more Italian horror movies that I've literally never seen that I bought from Britain.
Nice.
You know, but I'm enjoying just taking chances on stuff, and more often than not, I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I watched one like 2 nights ago that I bought that I didn't particularly care for, but hey, it is what it is. Um, but I chose, getting back to the subject, I chose City of the Living Dead because there's something about that movie. I know a lot of people swear The Beyond is their favorite of Fulci's films, and The Beyond is fantastic, but City of the Living Dead's been with me for a lot longer than The Beyond. I've been watching that movie since, high school, and I love that movie from top to bottom. I love every minute of that movie. It's so good. I love just the ballsiness of it, and the tone of it, the music, the Fabio Frizzi music. My God. I mean, if that music wasn't in that movie, it would be a completely different film. But just the zombies look phenomenal in that movie. The gore effects, the even the stilted acting, the voiceover stuff, just everything about that movie from beginning to end. I'm in love with it. I love that movie so much.
It is a fantastic movie. The one thing that always stuck with me ever since I first saw it back in the late 90s was the music.
Yes.
I love the score of this movie. John Williams can eat a bag of dicks. Uh, this one of my favorite scores.
Yeah.
It's just so good. The other thing that I always remembered before rewatching was the girl puking up her guts.
Yes.
I did rewatch it not that long ago before I interviewed you and Lucas for the Final Gate. So I rewatched City of the Living Dead. I watched The Beyond for the first time and House by the Cemetery for the first time. And City of the Living Dead is still my favorite.
Yeah.
Of those three. Yeah, it's so good. It's disjointed, I think, and it has a weird subplot with Bob.
Yeah, I have my
And
own
it
feelings about
just
Bob, but speaking of the soundtrack, Lombardo and I actually had tickets to see Fabio Frizzi live in concert in about 3 weeks down in Baltimore. He's playing
nice.
his Frizzi to Fulci concerts where he's gonna be playing all the soundtrack from City Living Dead, Zombie probably, and The Beyond. And I can't wait. It's gonna be so awesome. I'm
Yeah.
so excited. We've had tickets for this for almost a year now, and I can't wait to see that. But yeah, the whole thing about Bob, I've thought about it a lot, and the whole thing is like people are like, oh, he's like the town pervert, and he did see, he may or may not have done something with a girl in the woods that one time, and the dad was pissed off about that. The whole town feels like he's like the town freak or the town pariah or whatever. I don't feel that way about Bob. I just think he's just a weird guy that the whole town is just kind of misunderstood, and I think he's gotten cast in this outcast role. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I say that at the same time. The first time you see him, he's about to fuck a blow up doll.
Hmm.
But at the same time, like, yeah, he's a loner and he's a weirdo and he doesn't have anything else. So yeah, I guess I could see him doing that. But at the same time, all these people keep saying, well, he's a pervert and this and that. Well, like, he's with two younger women in this movie about his age, and they don't act like that toward him. The adults act like that toward him. Those two younger women do not. In fact, the one that gets in the car with him before he dies, she's very friendly with him. She's like, "Hey, come and smoke a joint with me." Like, "Oh, what'd you sleep in the back of my dad's car for?" And even the psychiatrist's girlfriend that goes and sees him in that garage that he's sleeping in, or like he's like shaking in or whatever, she doesn't act weird toward him. She's just like, "Bob, are you okay, Bob?" Like,
Right.
so I've never felt like he was like the town you know rapist or whatever that people act like, the adults in the movie act like. I just think he's very misunderstood, and he's just kind of a awkward, weird character that's just a loner that's just kind of on his own. So I don't know. That's just always been my feeling toward him. I've always felt kind of bad about Bob. Like Bob always kind of makes me feel sad more than just like creeped out.
Yeah, that's exactly the point that I was going to make.
Yeah.
Is it's the adults, it's the grown-ups
Yeah.
that have a problem with him. We're making him a scapegoat.
Yeah.
Because yeah, Emily does go in and is very kind to him, and then when the other girl finds him in the back of the car, and yeah, she has no problem just jumping into the car with him. Hey,
Yeah.
Bob, what you doing?
Yeah.
Let's smoke a joint.
Yeah, exactly. I
And
don't know. I don't but it's small town prejudice. It's small town stuff. I mean Dunwich is so small that even Christopher George and Catcher McCall spend an inordinate amount of time driving from New York City to Massachusetts to find Dunwich, and they can't even find Dunwich. So Dunwich is so damn small that, like, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that like the people that live there are just like, well, he's the weirdo that we got to focus on,
yeah.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, but it is. I do still think it's an odd subplot within the movie.
Yeah.
But I like the guy that plays Bob.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
he
Giovanni Lombardo Rodice. Yep.
Um, but yeah, so we start with the great music. We start with the priest hanging himself.
Mm-hmm. Father
Intercut
Thomas.
Intercut with the seance or whatever
Yeah.
it is they're doing.
Yeah.
So that's where we meet Mary, and she has the vision. And then she dies. and then we meet Christopher George, who I've been seeing a lot of that guy lately.
Yeah.
I have the Riff Tracks channel.
Okay.
And they play a lot of movies that I love, and on heavy rotation, and they have both Grizzly and Day of the Animals.
Oh, is he in those?
And he's in both of those.
Okay. I've seen those as Severin titles. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what the movies were, but okay.
Well, Grizzly is basically Jaws with a grizzly bear.
Okay.
And Day of the Animals, I first saw on TV. It's got Leslie Nielsen in it fighting a bear. But it's
Okay.
basically it's sort of a nature revenge kind of thing. The hole in the ozone layer has driven all of the animals crazy. And
Okay.
so people who are out hiking are being attacked by all sorts of different kinds of animals,
Hmm.
which is fantastic. And a little trivia, the first person to die in Day of the Animals is played by the first person to die in Jaws.
Oh,
The woman, I don't remember her name.
yeah, I've seen her at several cons the last like 2 years. I can't think of her name, but yeah.
But yeah, Christopher George is in those. So I've been seeing him a
Huh.
lot lately because again they're on heavy rotation and I have to stop either time both of those movies are on, stop what I'm doing and watch.
Interesting. Apparently, Fulci did not get along with Christopher George at all.
Hmm.
I've been watching all my special features on this stuff and like just kind of reading up about the movie a lot. And apparently, like, oh, so Fulci was kind of a hard ass on his actors. Like he expected his act like most directors should be at for their actors. He expects them, no matter what the subject is that they're filming, to take it as serious as possible. Well, Christopher George did not want to do this movie at all, and apparently was being very blasé about the whole thing and very sarcastic and didn't really care. And apparently him and Fulci butted heads quite a bit, and he was getting on to him saying, "No, you're gonna fucking take this seriously," or however you say that in Italian.
Yes.
But yeah, so yeah, apparently he did not want to fucking do this movie, and you can kind of tell because he plays the character very sarcastically. In fact, like even the line, "You dragged me out here into the middle of nowhere to look for your galloping cadavers." Well, that
Yeah.
doesn't seem like that's a very odd line that you wouldn't hear like in an Italian movie. Like it doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like a Dardano Sacchetti written line. So yeah, you can tell he definitely made that up, and then like that stuck with that. With how they had to shoot those movies, they didn't shoot them with sound, so they had to go back and ADR all the voices in there. So he had to fucking say that stupid line twice. Then, so
Well, I was excited to see when you held up the one copy of your movie that it's an Arrow release
oh yeah, this is
because
I just got this one on eBay recently. This Arrow like Euro one. Oh man, look at the cover of that. Hold on.
so nice.
Ah shit, come on. Yeah, like that's crazy.
It's beautiful.
Yes, but it's a big box set that comes with like a bunch of like it comes with like a booklet, like a 60-page booklet, and it's like some
Damn.
like posters and shit. It's fucking awesome. Like I had to get this one, even though like this is now like quadruple dipping into this movie. But yeah, I got that. I got the Scorpion release of Gates of Hell like that, and I've got the old Blue Underground Blu-ray of it. Yeah, I've dipped into this movie too many times now.
Well, I don't have a copy, but like just looking over here, I have a stack of some of my most recent Blu-ray and DVD purchases, and I can see one, two, three, four, five Arrow movies right there.
Oh yeah,
Um, love it when they have sales.
yeah,
And a little bit off topic, but talking about these things like Arrow and Severin and those. One of my favorite movies from when I was growing up finally got released, and I wish I could remember which it was. It's one of those. I don't remember if it's Vinegar Syndrome, which one it is, but it was a movie I didn't think would ever get released because of the subject matter. But Massacre at Central High.
I think that's Severin.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, I was so excited to see that that was available.
really.
I grew up. Well, uh, it was on HBO. I would watch it like every time it would come on
Okay.
HBO. It's it's not the greatest movie ever made, but I find it incredibly entertaining. And
Yeah.
so, but again, just from the title, nowadays doesn't seem like the kind of thing that's gonna get
Yeah.
released. But they it's one of those things. I was reading some of the little essays or whatever that came with it, and they're like, we cleaned it up as best we could.
Yeah.
Some of it comes from this stock, some of it comes from this. So this is the best copy you're going to get, and it does have special features and everything. So yeah, I love what all of those companies are doing.
Yeah, I just bought Severin just put out that really beautiful Blu-ray set for Tombs of the Blind Dead. And I had never seen it before. That was another blind buy for me. And I don't usually spend as much money as I spent on that because that was like $50. But I just thought that looked really cool, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna get this and check it out, and hopefully it's good." And it turned out really, really good. I enjoyed the shit out of that movie actually. But
Nice.
yeah, I'm really loving what all these companies are doing, keeping all these movies alive. And they may not sell a lot, but the people that do want them are very happy about getting them.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get back to the movie we're supposed
Yeah,
to be talking
sorry.
about. No, that was me. I took us off in another direction, but so yeah, so they Christopher George. What is his character's name? I have it in front of me. Peter Bell. He
Peter,
and
yeah.
Mary. Well, one of I think one of the most tense scenes is when he goes to the cemetery and they're burying Mary.
Yeah.
And excuse me while I shift a little bit, get comfortable here. Um, and she wakes up in the casket and starts screaming.
Yeah.
And the way he does it, where he's walking away, and then he hears something, and it's like, but then it stops, and he doesn't hear anything anymore. He starts walking. It's like, is he going to go back? Is he going to find? And then when he picks up the pickaxe,
Which why are they using a pickaxe to one? Like that's the one I can't understand why the hell there's a pickaxe there at the cemetery, but either way, whatever. Shovels,
what?
yeah, but a pickaxe. That was the one I don't get, but it's like, well, then this scene doesn't work unless there's a pickaxe. So,
Sometimes you got to use a pickaxe to bust up a big rock that's in your way when you're trying to
I
shovel.
guess. I guess.
But he seems a little careless with how he's using that pickaxe.
Yeah.
Because that thing's coming right there.
Oh yeah.
Which again, intense scene, I think.
And it's even crazier, like when he finally does pull that big chunk out, when you see her face, there's blood all over the inside of that casket and like on her face. So it almost like we know it's because she's scratching the inside and she's bleeding, like her fingers and stuff are bleeding and they're getting all over her face. But if I was him, I'd be thinking, shit, I think I just hit her in the face with this axe.
Did I put out an eye? It's
Yeah,
a Lucio
exactly.
Fulci movie.
Yeah.
It's quite possible.
Yeah, exactly.
um, just there's so many weird things, kind of jumping around here. But when the cops show up after when Mary dies,
Yeah.
and you just have that weird fireball thing.
I don't even know what to explain about that. I've watched all the behind the scenes stuff of that movie. Nobody ever talks about that particular thing. I feel like that was something that they shot more of that got hit the cutting room floor or something, but that scene they just stuck with that. I don't know. That scene never really made sense to me either. I don't get it, but that's just part of the charm of the movie, I guess.
Yeah. I surprised myself because I remembered that the book was called the Book of Enoch.
Yeah, Enoch, yeah.
I yeah, it before anybody in the movie said it, it popped into my. I was like, it's gonna be the Book of Enoch. And then
Yeah.
I was like, yeah,
Because in the Beyond it's Ebon, the Book of Ebon, yeah.
but so yeah, so Christopher George and Mary. I know I'm using one character name and one actor name. Are trying to find Dunwich. Meanwhile, I had completely forgotten about the psychiatrist or
Mhm.
psychologist, whatever he is, the shrink, and Sandra the patient,
Yeah.
um, which is I I keep jumping around. I was shocked because I always forget. I was shocked at what happens to Sandra.
Yeah, so John's sister, you said her name earlier. I can't
Emily.
remember. Emily, she's the one that comes back there toward the end and does the head crunching scene
Yeah.
on her on the blonde. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, at least I expect at this point it's going to be Christopher George's character, Mary, the shrink, and Sandra. That's our group.
Yeah.
Those are the people that are going to take us to the end of the movie. And then, nope, that's not what happens.
Right, right. And then Christopher George dies the exact same way at the end of the movie, toward the end, very kind of
Yeah.
unceremoniously just gone. You know, it's there's a lot of just weird stuff in this movie. There's a lot of just oddball deaths and zombies showing up in strange places and blinking out of existence and then blinking back into existence. It's just it's a wild movie. I've Lombardo and I have talked about it a lot before. He's a huge fan of The Beyond, and he doesn't love City of the Living Dead as much as I do. But he always talks about how City feels so disjointed and feels like there's a lot of like unnecessary stuff and not necessary cutting around and stuff. But that to me, that's kind of the charm of the movie. I don't really overthink these movies too much. I just kind of take them for what they are. I'm not here for like a lot of like in-depth plot. I'm there for the visuals and the music and the tone of the movie and just yeah.
We've mentioned the music is fantastic. I think the sound design is amazing.
Oh yeah.
It's just so bizarre. The look of the movie, Dunwich has got to be one of the dirtiest towns I've ever seen.
Well, so all of the if okay, so the outdoor shots of that movie that aren't like in the downtown like city area where like John's running around in, so that's still Italy. But the outdoor shots of it, so like outside of like the ramshackle houses and like anything where you see like a lot of like kind of like almost like palm trees and shit, like very southern like weeping willows and stuff, that all was shot down in Savannah, Georgia. So all the outdoor shots of that movie are in Savannah, Georgia, and all the indoor stuff was done back in Italy. And I don't know why they chose Savannah, Georgia. It just seems like a very strange kind of spot to choose. But yes, that's the kind of the two places where it was shot outside of like the couple of scenes where you see in New York City, because Fulci was just like a lot of the Italian directors were very into New York City for some reason in the late 70s, early 80s. I don't know why. They all had a thing for it. There were so many like horror movies that were set in like grimy downtown Manhattan for some reason. I don't know if that was just the thing back then or if it was, I don't know if it just had that look that they were looking for. I mean, you look at like the New York Ripper, his other film. I mean, that movie makes you feel like you have to take a fucking shower after you watch it. I mean, it is a grimy, disgusting, just filthy, just blech, gross movie. It's a great fucking movie, but it always makes you feel like you got to wash your hands afterwards.
Well, Dunwich, you've watched the behind the scenes stuff. Dunwich constantly has just that dirt blowing.
Yes,
Through it.
that's one of the things that like especially when Lucas and I were writing the final gate, we needed to make sure that we put in there, and I was stressing this toward the end of the book. Um, it seems like in City Living Dead and the Beyond in general, like or in specific, it seems like whenever like the stuff starts hitting the fan, for some reason it starts getting more windy outside. I don't know if that was a choice that he made that he was doing specifically, or if that just how it came to be with his stuff. But yeah, it got very like windy in both those movies.
Well, do you know how? Were they just
The wind machines. I know there were
wind
wind
machines and
machines.
they're just
Yeah,
throwing dust in front of him?
pretty
Or
pretty much. Yeah, like there was wind machines for City Living. I don't know about the Beyond, but City Living Dead. Yeah, they're like especially when you first see Bob sitting outside of the shack before he goes in to diddle the fucking blow up doll. Yeah, those were just big ass wind machines they had out there in front of him. So yeah.
all right. Yeah, very cool. But yeah, very, very gritty. And again, a weird scene when our four, what I thought were the main characters, are together and the windows just blow open and maggots start just blowing into the room.
Yeah, that's always been like my least favorite scene in the movie, the maggot scene. It's fine. It's just weird. Like it's almost kind of unnecessarily weird. But they were real maggots, except the up close shots were maggots, but when it's blowing in through the window, that's actually rice, is what they said, I believe. But I have no doubt that the actress that played Sandra, when she sits down and pukes, I have no doubt that that was actually her vomiting. Like it has to have been because he said like apparently Fulci was just throwing that shit at them in just buckets. and was just wouldn't let them, like they were doing like their individual shots and then like the group shots and stuff, and he was just going at it hard on them with those maggots. So it would not surprise me if she actually was vomiting on screen because of it, because it's fucking nasty. And
Yeah.
they were having to glue them onto their faces when like the up close shots. It's just, yeah, it's pretty gnarly.
Yeah. But there are so many weird, almost disjointed things. You've got the old lady from the funeral parlor that just shows
Yeah,
up in Sandra's kitchen.
yeah. And then disappears, and then you hear her walking around upstairs, and then when they leave the house, it kind of just pans across her room, and then you see the old woman's feet behind that stand, and it's just like, yeah, I think it's all just meant to unsettle you. I know it's a lot of just weird disjointedness, but I think there's a lot of just unsettling feeling about that movie. Yeah,
And it is, well, that's the disjointedness makes it unsettling, I think.
absolutely.
Um, and apparently that old lady bit the mortuary guy.
Yes, bites him, but then you look back down at her and she's not moving. So yes, it was a very quick bite and back to sleep. Yeah.
Um, the when they finally get into Father Thomas's crypt and go down, it's beautiful. The
Gorgeous set. Gorgeous
the
set.
set is amazing with the skeletons hanging down and coming
Yep.
up. But I just had this impression that like they'd been there so long, they were falling through the ground.
Yep.
Um, just absolutely beautiful.
I think that set and the end of the Beyond, where they're actually in the Beyond, I think both of those sets are just two set pieces that are just absolutely gorgeous. I really wish I could go back in time and just walk through those sets. Funny story though, the Beyond. So the end of that movie when they're in basically the afterlife and they're walking through it, and it's just this wasteland of just gray and tan and all those bodies that are on the ground and stuff. Funny story, those bodies were actually, they weren't just like rubber bodies. Those were a bunch of local drunks that they hired. Literally, they were just local drunks in, I think they shot in Rome or something. They just paid them a little bit of money, or they probably even paid them in booze, and they just had them lay on the ground and don't move. We're just going to cover you up. You're going to be naked. We're just going to cover you up in dirt and like sand, and that's it. And it's just funny because those are all like real people just laying on the ground.
I was expecting a silver ball to come flying through. So it reminded me a little bit of
Oh yeah,
the other world
yeah. Or you looked at the forks. Yeah,
phantasm.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, beautiful, beautiful set. And again, I'm just going to keep saying amazing music. Probably the only thing that I found jarring is how often the music just cuts off.
yeah,
Because you'll have a scene, the tension, the dread is building, the music's building, and all of a sudden it just cuts to dead silence and you're in a different scene. And that was a little bit jarring,
yeah,
disjointed.
yeah,
Plus, I
yeah. I
just
think
wanted more of that music.
yeah, yeah. I when I was writing my parts of the Final Gate, I was listening to. I would pull it up on YouTube. I'd listen to the soundtracks for the Beyond, and yeah, there you go. And the City of the Living Dead, because the soundtracks for those movies are so great. It was just getting me in the mood while I was writing that stuff. But yeah, I think Fabio Frizzi's music for those movies were so integral that like to take them out would have been a completely different film. And I think they go hand in hand so well together. And it's weird because he did the music for Zombie, City of the Living Dead, and the Beyond, but he did not do the music for House by the Cemetery, which is strange.
Hmm.
But I do really like the music for House by the Cemetery. I think it's a completely different feel to that movie that probably wouldn't have worked with his music, but I really do like the soundtrack for that one too, quite a bit.
I'll have to rewatch that and listen.
Yeah.
Um, all right, I lost what I was gonna say. Uh, let's see. Talking about the sets. Talking. I don't know. Oh, I know what it was. Um, we had no eyeball punctures or anything in
Right.
this movie. a lot of bleeding from the eyes.
Right.
But I did notice when Sandra was in her art studio and painting a rhino head floating above an ocean for some reason. When she leaves, to the right of the door is just a square painting of a big round eyeball. So
Huh. I must have
Fulci
missed that. I don't remember
got
that at
his
all.
got his eyeball in the. Oh yeah, it's
You
uh
know, it's funny that like people always like just go for the eyeball thing with Fulci, and it's funny. But the thing is, like, that only really was it like in two movies. He did
yeah.
it in Zombie for the one scene, and did it a handful of times in The Beyond. It was very purposeful in The Beyond. But it's funny that like it's only two movies that was very strong in, really like 1.5 movies, and that's what he's been known for fucking 40, 50, 60 years now. It's so strange to me that like just those two things like really like, oh, he's the eyeball guy. But it's funny, like I'm not a big Argento fan. Like I'm not a big Dario Argento fan. I know I should be, but like I've never been a big fan of his. But I've seen enough of his movies to know that his thing that more people don't bring up is he loves to smash people's faces through windows. My God, every fucking movie I've watched of his, someone's face is going through a window, either very slowly or very quickly, but someone's face is always going through glass. That's just his thing, I guess.
Hmm, interesting. I have a few Giallo books,
Yeah.
and I have the one that's an anthology that I don't remember the name of. And then I just recently got John Everson's
Oh
uh,
yeah.
novel,
Five deaths for seven songbirds, I think, something like that.
something like
Yeah.
that, or Seven Deaths for Five, so whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'll have to see if anybody threw in some faces through glass,
Something. Yeah.
any of that. Interesting. I have not watched a lot of Argento. It's on my list.
I wish I was a bigger fan of his stuff. I get a lot of shit from my friends because I don't, especially like Christopher Triana. He's a huge Argento fan. He's been trying to get me to watch more of his stuff, and the more I watch of Argento's stuff, I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. I don't know. I don't know what it is about his movies that I don't like. I just don't particularly care for them. But eh.
I saw, I think it was Suspiria, but it might have been. Did he do opera?
Yeah.
Okay, it might have been opera. When I was 15, I went out to California for a couple of weeks to visit. I have two half brothers
Mm.
that I didn't even know existed till I was 12. Um, and we went to the drive-in and saw Maniac
I love Maniac.
and an Argento, and I can't remember if it was Suspiria or opera, but I mean, they made an impression. They
Yeah.
absolutely made an impression on me. But I do need to go back and watch a little more Argento and see how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm certainly not versed in Argento or Italian cinema as a whole.
That's the thing I've been getting into a lot lately, is Italian stuff. Like all the movies that I just got today in the mail. I got Michele Soave's The Sect, and his movie Della Morte Dell'Amore, and then all Sergio Martino's All the Colors of the Dark. Like I just, man, I have fallen hard for Italian cinema. I don't know what it is about Italian horror cinema that I love so much. I just, like I said, I can't think of the better words than it's just so like ballsy and unabashed in their approach to, just they just don't give a shit. Like they didn't care. Like there wasn't like the MPAA. Like they weren't worried about franchising shit. That's what it gets me so much about American horror, is they're not making it. They're not doing one-off movies. Everything has to be fucking franchised, and I'm sick to death of it. That's why I don't love American horror movies that much anymore, because as soon as you see it, you just go, oh yeah, here comes the second one, here comes the third one, and how are they going to drag this into the fucking ground? Like that's what I love so much about the Italian cinema, is like, or at least Euro horror in general. It's just not a lot of franchising. It's all a lot of one-off stuff. Even Fulci's like Gates of Hell trilogy, I honestly, I'll be honest, I don't even know why they call it a trilogy. It's so loosely put together. And
Yeah.
the only reason it's called a trilogy is because they all came out within like a year and a half of each other. And I don't even know why House by the Cemetery is considered part of the Gates of Hell trilogy. It literally has nothing to do with a gate to hell like the other two did. Like I would consider Zombie more of a Gates of Hell movie than House by the Cemetery, but oh well. But yeah, I love Italian horror movies. There's just so much fun. They're so weird and disjointed, and the music is always really cool, and they're fun. Like they're so ballsy and fun. Like I love them.
Well, could one make a comparison between that and that wave of French extreme that we had?
See, I'm not as well versed in the French stuff. That would be like Christopher Triana's. That'd be questions to ask him. He's got more. He had me watch a French movie recently called Inside.
Mm-hmm.
A very extreme movie. Man, I was not a fan of that movie at all. Like I really wanted to like it, but halfway through I was like, this is the meanest fucking movie I've ever watched in my life.
That has one of my favorite scenes ever.
Which scene?
The very end with the scissors.
In the stomach?
Yes. I just
Ugh.
because again, for me it's they went there.
Yeah. And that's the thing with the Euro movies like that. They don't have a problem going there. Like, yeah, the American stuff, they'll get close a lot of the times, but they just I don't know. I guess it's just the American sensibility of things. Like there was no that Euro sensibility just wasn't there. Like they just did it. They just did it and just moved on without thinking about it. And that's what I find so intriguing about these movies is they just I don't know. I don't know how else to describe it. My words are not coming out today, but they're just fun. They're fun to me.
Yeah. I would ask Christopher Triana about it, but he has not returned my calls.
Oh, jeez.
I sent him a message on Twitter, and
Okay.
I found out that apparently some go to people's request section. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because someone eventually got back to me. They said, "Oh, sorry for getting back to you after so long. This was in my requests file folder. I don't know, whatever."
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's even seen the message. I would love to have Christopher Triana on the show. And now I know I can ask him about French extreme horror.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right, this might piss you off. We'll see. When I was watching City of the Living Dead today, I started thinking about, because I'm an American in 2022, I was thinking about a remake. And I started thinking about casting the remake.
Okay.
And simply because some of the people, so the old woman that's running the seance, I
Okay.
immediately thought of, and I should know her name off the top of my head, but I can't think of it. But the woman,
I can hear the black cop say her name in my head, but for some reason I can't think of her name. I can see him talking to her and I can hear him saying her name, but I can't say her name now.
the woman from the Insidious movies.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
I can't think of her name either. I'll think of it as soon as we get off here. But
I mean,
yeah.
I can IMDb it. But I don't know why. It just popped into I was like, she would be perfect in that role.
Okay.
And then I thought simply I was thinking there might be a bit of a physical resemblance was Olivia Wilde as Mary. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Lynn Shay.
Lynn Shay, that's right.
Lynn Shay. Yeah, I thought Lynn Shay would be great as the woman running the seance. Olivia Wilde. I was like, I could see Olivia Wilde playing Mary.
Okay.
And then just if I'm dream casting, if he's willing to take a little tiny role, Samuel L. Jackson is the detective. Why not? The detective had some attitude, So why not throw Samuel L. Jackson in
that
there?
that detective was so over the top with his like, where'd you
Yeah.
hide the drugs? Like, it's
Yeah.
just like, what
Where
the fuck?
are the
Yeah,
drugs?
yeah,
What are you on?
yeah. PCP, yeah. Uh,
Um, that was all I had. I couldn't think of anybody for any of the other people.
I couldn't even throw names out. I wouldn't even consider remaking any of these movies. It's funny. Like, there really hasn't been any remakes of any of these Italian films other than Suspiria. But I mean, that one is so wildly popular. Like, there's people that don't even watch Italian horror movies that even at least have heard of Suspiria. So
Yeah.
that's been kind of one of those like ones that have like transcended, I guess, with other people. But yeah,
Well, to be fair, I would rather people discovered the original City of the Living
absolutely,
Dead. Absolutely.
absolutely.
Um, but I mean, there is that little bit of, if people see a remake, they'll go back and look for the original. Which, so I mean, that's the upside if you want to look for the silver lining.
Yeah.
I'm not completely anti-remake, but I'm not like pro remake. I think there are some horrible, horrible remakes, and I think there's some good ones.
Yeah, for every Nightmare on Elm Street, well, I'll say this, for every awesome remake like The Hills Have Eyes, there's going to be a Nightmare on Elm Street remake that's equally as shitty. So yeah, I don't touch the remakes very often. I think some of the best ones were like the Hills Have Eyes remake, which I think is fucking phenomenal. I think it's even better than the original in my
Well,
opinion.
you have one of the French extreme directors making that movie,
Oh yeah, I can't think of what that
Alexander
guy's.
Aja.
That's right. Yeah, that is a hell of a movie. And I think the Texas Chainsaw remake from like 2003 with Jessica Biel, I think was great. I may be
Couldn't
one of the
get
very
through it.
I may be one of the very few people that say that, but I thought it was a solid remake.
I may have to give it another try. Sometimes, and people who watch my channel regularly have heard me say this before. Sometimes I'm just not in the right mood
Yeah.
or in the right place. Um, I'll bring up the greatest example I have. The first time I ever read Pet Cemetery,
Mm.
decades and decades and decades ago, I've been telling people it's the second most boring book I've ever read.
Hmm.
Literally for decades, I've been telling people Pet Cemetery, most second most boring book I've ever read. I reread it last year or the year before. It is now one of my favorite Stephen King books.
I've only read it once. There's for such a short book, it sure drags in a lot of places. The scene where he goes back to take the body out of the cemetery, take Gage's body out of the cemetery, that takes an exorbitant amount of time in the book. He spends chapters and chapters of it talking about him climbing over the gate, sitting on top of the gate, climbing over the gate, touching ground, climbing up into a tree, waiting inside the tree for fucking chapters. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, this could have been done in like 4 paragraphs.
You know what? That is the scene that I would always tell people. I'd be like, he's approaching the cemetery and he sees car headlights, so he ducks down.
Yeah.
And then he gets up and he gets to the fence and there's car headlights, so he ducks down.
Yeah.
And then he throws the shovel over and then there's car head. It's actually not as long as I remembered it being.
Yeah. I
It
don't know.
is.
I should try rereading that part in particular to see how I feel about it. I mean, I read it only just actually a few years ago for the first time, but man, you want to talk about a fucking remake? That remake for that movie is trash.
See, oh, we're gonna
Fucking
get a
hell, it was
beef.
so bad. It was so
I did
bad.
not hate that movie.
I love the original. The original's fantastic. I fucking hated the remake.
I did not hate the remake.
Ugh.
I
That whole
really
ending
liked. What's that?
the whole ending of that movie is zombie begat zombie begat zombie. It's just like, get the fuck out of here. Like oh, I hated that movie. God, that movie sucked.
Apparently, we have, despite some of the things we agree on, like loving City of the Living Dead,
Yeah.
we have very wide gulf in some things.
Well, and I think one of the other issues I had with the book was that I think the movie did a better job with the original movie, not that terrible remake. Was the balance of Gage and Church when they came back, their personalities. So like when Church comes back in the book, he's just a bumbling, stumbling cat that can barely stand. That's just like, oh, I'm undead, I guess. I'm just gonna run into walls and shit. And then Gage comes back and he's yelling, "Cocksucker, I'm gonna kill you, motherfucker," and stabbing things with knives. And I'm just like, what? There's no balance here. It's just like there's one extreme to the other extreme, and that's what I like so much about the movie is both came back equally fucked up and evil. I think King did a better job with that aspect of the story in the screenplay than he did in the original novel, but that's just my opinion. Though I am sure other people have different opinions about that, but that's just how I saw it. But I still think the scene that they did perfectly in the book and in the movie was at the funeral whenever he and his father-in-law get in a fight and they hit the coffin and the coffin hits the ground and the coffin lid bounces up and you see Gage's arm float up inside the coffin and hit the inside of the coffin before the coffin slams shut. The way he describes it in the book and the way it's done in the movie now as a father is horrifying. Horrifying scene. And it's so quick. It only lasts 2 seconds in the movie, but it is so effective and fucked up and nightmarish.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people talk about how the book affects them post children.
Yeah.
Or having children. But yeah, I used to think it was horribly boring. Now when I reread it, absolutely loved it, flew through it. So I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch the Jessica Biel Texas Chainsaw Massacre because I might have been in the wrong mindset.
It also doesn't hurt that she's nice to look at. So,
although I think the greatest Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the new one from Netflix.
Oh wow!
Kidding.
I'm not a big fan of the series to begin with. I think the first one's a classic, and I like the remake, but I could do without all of the other ones. I saw the second one for the first time when Lombardo made me watch it about 3 years ago, and I haven't forgiven him since.
See,
I hated it. I hated every second of the second one. I hated it so much. It was so bad.
I like the second one, and I find the Next Generation or whatever it's called.
Oh, the one with
Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah,
and Renee Zellweger.
I never saw it.
I find it entertaining enough that I enjoy watching it. It's not a good movie, but it's especially Matthew McConaughey is so over the top. His performance is hypnotic.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rest of them, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, not a fan.
I can't remember. We watched one of them at Cinema Wasteland. The one with, is it Jim Caviezel that's in it? Viggo Mortensen? I don't know.
Viggo Mortensen's in the third one.
Okay, that's the one that we watched at Cinema Wasteland. Ken Foree is in it, I believe. Yeah. And then there's a bunch that I haven't even seen.
That's another series that's been retconned to death, just like the Halloween series. I mean, how many times are you going to do a sequel to the original movie? Like, it's a fucking joke at this point. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm so like fed up with like American horror franchises because now they're not even doing sequels. They're doing remakes of sequels, and they're doing it like 3-4 times now. So how many sequels to the original Halloween do we have now? We have quite literally 3 sequels to the original Halloween now, and all of them have different storylines. It doesn't make any sense anymore. Same thing with Texas Chainsaw. Texas Chainsaw now has 3. It now has 3 sequels to the original movie. Like, that's insane. That's crazy.
So you're not a fan of Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills?
I'm not a fan of Halloween in general. If we have to talk about franchises, I'm a Freddy guy. I love Freddy. I love the Nightmare on Elm Street series, minus Part 6. I love that series, but even then, like I'm pretty burnt out on it.
See, I'm a Jason guy.
Okay.
Although I do have very specific memories of seeing the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Saw it at Midway Mall. They had a theater inside the mall, 2 screens. And there was a Baskin Robbins. So I remember who I took as my date. I remember going to Baskin Robbins after the movie. I love the first movie. I enjoy a couple of the other ones in the Elm Street series.
Yeah.
But I'm a Jason Voorhees or a Friday the 13th. Can't just say Jason Voorhees since he's not the killer in the first one. Spoilers for a very old movie, folks. Jason's not the killer in the first one. But I liked Michael Myers in the new movies. I don't know if it was, he just seemed a little more brutal to me. A little more brutality to what he would, to the kills.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed them well enough. But again, I'm not a huge Halloween fan.
Yeah, I'm not either. I skipped them. I just didn't want to see them.
But I have recently, thanks to these cheap sets that come out, just recently bought 8-pack of Hellraiser movies. I have the Arrow versions releases of 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And this pack has 3 through 10 or whatever it is.
Good God.
And but it was like $5.
Right. I love the first 2, but that's about all I can stand of that series.
I've only seen the first 3, and I love the first 2. And I bought a 7-pack, again, however many, Children of the Corn.
Oh, God.
And I've heard, I don't know if it's true, I've heard some of them aren't horrible. Like some of them are actually entertaining.
I think Lombardo swears that I think it's like part 3 is like one of the best movies he's ever seen or something like that. I was like, I doubt that, but okay.
I think that's the one that's Charlize Theron's first movie.
Oh God, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's what her first movie is, one of the Children of the Corn movies, one of the sequels. I think it's 3. All right. We've gone way off topic. Well, any final thoughts? Anything else you want to say about City of the Living Dead?
No, just go watch more Italian horror films. Go watch more Euro horror films. Like, I just think there's so much good stuff out there, and it's a lot of it's streaming. A lot of it's streaming on Tubi. Like, if you have like Roku and you have the Tubi app, like a lot of it is on there. But it's all so widely available now with these companies. Like, we were talking about earlier, like Arrow and Blue Underground and Synapse and Severin and stuff like that. Like, they're just so widely available, and it's a lot of them have just beautiful presentations now with the restored editions, and give stuff a try. Just check it out. Yeah, if you can get over the fact that like most of them have to be dubbed because they weren't recording with sound at the time, which is crazy to me, and the fact that like the casts of these movies were filled with like half the cast would be like British, and then the other half would be Italian, and then you'd have some French actors in there, and then you'd have some like, I don't know, like German actors and stuff too, and they're all talking to each other in their native languages, and then they're all having to act in that way. It's fucking insane. Like, it's insane that these movies were shot the way that they were shot back then. It's crazy to me. But they worked for the most part. But yeah, there's so much cool stuff out there to check out. Even if you don't find yourself liking like Fulci's stuff, I mean, you might like Argento, you might like Sergio Martino, you might like Michele Soave, or Joe D'Amato, or these people. There's so much cool shit to check out that like I'm discovering now for the first time, that I'm just enjoying the shit out of. Even if they're not my favorite movies in the world, I'm enjoying them because I'm finally opening up and checking this stuff out. So I wish. My hope is that more people will go check this stuff out instead of watching, Friday the 13th Part 9 again for the 15th time.
Yeah, absolutely. My most recent Arrow purchase was, they had a sale on their Japanese films.
Okay.
So I grabbed some of those. I got a 3-pack of Japanese vampire movies, and then Takashi Miike. that I can't remember the name of and can't read it from here. But yeah, absolutely check out the foreign films. When I was preparing to interview you and Lucas for the release of The Final Gate, that's when I finally subscribed to Shudder, so I could watch all 3 of the Gates of Hell films, and they've got some Italian stuff, some giallo,
they got a ton of it on there,
all sorts of stuff, and folks, check out The Final Gate.
Please do.
Lucas Mangum, and check out Try Again.
Please do.
Little tiny book, little thing, and anything else. I have, as I said, I have all of your stuff. It's in another room on a shelf. I didn't feel like pulling all of it down today. Is there anything you want to plug? I know you're doing the father thing. Have you been able to work on anything else? Or
man, I have not. I haven't been able to. I owed a book to a publisher back in April that I haven't even been able to start. I owe Brian Keene a book too that I haven't been able to start. I'm so behind on stuff right now that I can't get to it right now. I've got the baby, and I'm bummed about it, but at the same time, I have a bigger family now that I have to take care of, and I love that baby to death. I can't wait to go see him. I don't even know if my wife is home yet or not. She might be home downstairs, but I can't wait to see him for the first time today. And I got a short story collection coming out later this year, probably September or October, from Cemetery Gates Publishing, called oh my God, why am I forgetting the title? It's called They Mostly Come at Night. Yes, okay. You can tell I'm an Aliens fan. So that'll be out later this year. That's all I've got right now coming out, other than Try Again. But I'm doing the con thing. I've got a show in Allentown, PA, coming up next Saturday. I'm doing Living Dead Weekend in Monroeville in June. I'm doing Scares That Care in July again. I'm doing a show in Baltimore in August called Maryland Pop and Horror Con. Nothing in September, and then October I'm doing another show like Fright Reads Book Festival in Maryland, and I'm doing the Haverhill Merrimack Halloween Book Festival that Christopher Golden runs up in Haverhill, Massachusetts.
Yep.
And then November I'm doing Monster Mania with Stephen Kosniewski in Oaks, Pennsylvania, which is just in the Philadelphia area. So those are my shows for the rest of the year. But yeah, I'm just being a dad now. So.
And you do have a nice back catalog that people can pick up.
Yep, absolutely. And there's going to be, we haven't talked about it yet, but Summer and I, since Silver Shamrock Publishing dissolved, we have a new edition of Slaves to Gravity coming out here very soon. We're putting it out ourselves, and the new cover is being created right now. And from what I've seen from the cover, it's going to be pretty awesome. So that should be out hopefully within about a month or so, I think. But yeah, we're both very excited to get that back out to the world. So with a whole fresh new look, and yeah, it's going to be good.
I liked that book.
Yeah. We both really like that one too.
Be interested in seeing the new cover.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have links to some of your stuff in the description below.
All right.
And where can people find you online if you care for them to find you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, just either Wesley Southard or Wes Southard. I'm on TikTok too. I guess I'm trying to be more active on TikTok. I got a website, wesleysouthard.com. I'm very easy to find. All
right, great. Well, thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for making me watch City of the Living Dead again. That's always fun to do.
Hell yeah.
I love that movie. And folks, if you have any comments or questions, put them in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. All the YouTube stuff. That's all we've got for you. So until next time, read more books and watch more Italian cinema.
Hell yeah.